You are listening to the Enormocast.
Before the dawn of history, on the primordial earth, many, many years before Canada even existed, there lived a tiny creature whose innovation changed the course of evolution. This extraordinary critter, in an attempt to outdo and outlive the prey and predators around it, decided one day to fly. Or glide, or maybe just jump really high. We don't actually know, but that's not the point. The point is that the little Archaeopteryx reached for the heavens and became a legend. What this little rebel could not have known is that its strange, brittle skeleton would be discovered hundreds of millions of years later and inspire the folks at Arc'teryx Equipment to help our own earthbound corporeal forms reach for the sky. Since 1989, coincidentally the year I started climbing, Arc'teryx has been innovating gear and apparel for climbers to perform when the weather becomes predatory, and also to help us look as spiffy as a lizard with feathers while we soar to our own great heights. And now, Arc'teryx has joined the Enormocast to continue the tradition of telling stories of the best and brightest in climbing, as well as the misfits, dirtbags, and fringe dwellers. So, dear listener, raise your glass to that brave little lizard bird thingy that dared to fly, maybe, and let's toast Arc'teryx for helping us achieve our own skyward dreams. Arc'teryx is now a proud sponsor of the Enormocast.
We gotta get
Listen, where are you playing in town? You playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
big
big
house. We
place
sold
that
it out.
side of town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out.
20,000 seats. We really should.
Look, you better get up there before you panic. Those pens are loose. You're very good. I have really enjoyed climbing with you. We'll make it. I don't think so. But we shall continue with style. Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime for climbing.
Today's show is brought to you by La Sportiva and with support from Maxim Ropes. Maxim has been keeping the Enormocast off the deck since 2012.
And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enorma at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the Enormocast.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is April 2nd, 2025, about 9 a.m. here in Colorado, and this is episode 303 of the Enormocast, a conversation with one of my biggest man crushes out there, the wild, bearded, big-wall Viking we've all come to know through some of the quirkiest and most hilarious climbing films out there, Mr. Sean Villanueva O'Driscoll. But before we get to this banger of a podcast, I have one little thing to discuss. Some of you may have noticed that over the last 3 months, the Enormocast has only dropped one episode per month, a slowing down that came on top of a little comment that I made in episode 300 about an existential crisis here at the Enormocast. Well, you know what? After 300, I realized it was time to take a short, very minor break. Didn't really feel like a break since I was still putting out content. But the idea was to just chill for a second after 300 posted episodes. I look back at the record and it's kind of fucking astounding, if I do say so myself. I started the podcast at the end of 2011, in December of 2011. And by my crude calculations, I'm no mathematician, but at the end of 2024, if I had kept up the pace exactly of 2 a month, I should have hit 314 or 13, depending on how you look at it. And the truth is that even though episode 300 came out at the beginning of January, I actually have posted slightly more episodes than that if you include the tweeners, which aren't totally full episodes or part twos and things like that. I actually was at around 308 posted episodes. So in 13 years, I managed to keep up the pace short 6 episodes. That's 156 months where I nearly put out 2 episodes a month the entire time. Now, what else happened in my life besides all the normal stuff during that time? Well, I had a day job for most of it. Podcasting became sort of the job along with parenting a few years ago, though I still do other stuff to make money besides the podcast. I don't have an official job. I was in 3 or 4 different bands during that time, which is time consuming. I climbed a shit ton. I moved several times. I bought, lived in, and fixed up and sold a condo. We bought another house that has an ongoing 3 and 4 year remodel happening as DIY remodels often do. It's been dragging on. Oh, and we had a kid who's now 9 years old. Some of you old-time listeners, the Enormo baby is 9 now. Like, you listen to it all happen sort of in real time. Isn't that crazy? And then my wife, Steph, and I got married when he was around 7. We finally decided that was a good idea. And guess what? Andrew and I have put out 145 episodes at the run out during that time as well. So yeah, it was time to take a moment of a breather. I also thought that I would maybe build a new website, do some other stuff to help the podcast. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just put out 3 episodes while still cranking out the run out over the last 3 months. It didn't feel like a break. But anyway, we're back. The spigot is going to reopen to 2 a month. We got to get going here. One of the reasons we got to get going here is because I have a new sponsor. Black Diamond decided not to renew the sponsorship this year, which is totally fine. Those guys gave me something like 11 years of solid backing. I mean, the podcast kind of exists because of them and Sportiva being here for so long and so continuously. So I got no bad feelings about Black Diamond. They have been awesome. They continue to communicate with me. I still have friends up there. So thanks, BD, for all the support over a decade that those guys have been behind the podcast. However, I have a new sponsor that has come in to take the place. That's right. As if you listen to that commercial, which I think is quite awesome at the beginning of the podcast. Do you skip the commercials? I hope you don't. I put a lot of work into them. I try to make myself laugh and therefore make you guys laugh. But anyhow, if you listened, you know that Arc'teryx has come aboard at the podcast. I'm excited. I worked with them a bit last year. I've known some folks over there for years. I know a bunch of their climbing team members. I'm actually really good, very close friends with several of them since before they were Arc'teryx, and I'm excited to be involved with that company who are pouring a lot of resources into their climbing team. They're going to make a big announcement coming up of an expansion that's looking exciting. One of the few companies expanding their climbing team right now, actually. So anyhow, very exciting. Awesome to be working with those guys. Hopefully it will be even half as fruitful as it has been with BD over the last years. So that's cool. Podcast is backfiring. Thanks for sticking around over the last 3 months with less content. And I'm looking forward to the new partnership. And of course, hats off to Sportiva. Come on, Sportiva's still here. I have such a good relationship with those guys. Sportiva North America are just cool folks making and importing great products. And don't forget that the relationship between the Enormocast and these companies goes pretty deep. I don't just advertise for anybody that comes up with some money. I want a stronger partnership. And also, I ask a lot of these companies. I tell them in their giant multi-million-dollar marketing departments that I am going to make these commercials the way I want them. And they agree to that, which is fucking bonkers, you guys. It's bonkers. My self-congratulations is over for now. But come on, I've posted over 450 podcasts in the last 13 years. Who knew anybody could talk that much? All right, speaking of talking, I'm not done. Let's get to this awesome interview with Sean Villanueva O'Driscoll. Again, just a guy that I've admired, man crush aside. I think that he embodies so much of the spirit that I love in climbing. Just a workhorse out there, having fun, doing rad stuff. And the thing is, it's like he can be a goofball, right? But when the time comes and the storm hits or whatever, the guy can also put the hammer down, and you just have to admire that. Sean and Nico and their kind of young upstart, Siba Van Hee, are all in one of the Real Rock 19 films. the one that doesn't have any controversy. And I don't think it has any crying in it either. So that makes it different than the other two, although I love the other two as well. But anyhow, Riders on the Storm is out. This kind of completes my triumvirate of interviewing all three of those guys. Siba was a while back. Nico was last year. And now I have Sean on the show. Hard to pin Sean down. I've been trying for a long time. He's a very moving target. He disappears. It's out of contact, pops up. And even once I had him on the hook up in Banff at the Banff Mountain Film Festival this last fall, I mean, he tried to wiggle off the hook like 6 times. I kept getting messages from him that I'd rather go climbing. We're going climbing, but what about this time? What about this time? And I finally basically like handcuffed him to the chair, and we got this one done in person. One other thing to say about this is his accent is so fantastic. It's so unique. People have talked about how there's only one Sean Villanueva O'Driscoll accent. Nobody else has it. I think it's a better headphone listen just to hear the deepness and the depth and the sort of almost weird mysticism of his voice. It's worth popping on a pair of good headphones. That's just my opinion. This isn't one of those I messed up the recording things. It's just kind of a way in which he talks, but it draws you in. People talk about how if you bring your voice down, people will actually listen instead of shouting all the time. All right, let's get to it. I hope you have as much fun listening to this as I did doing it. An interview with Sean Villanueva O'Driscoll. Lo, these past few months, the Enormocast has been asking you, dear listener, one simple question.
What would you do for the send?
Well, what would you do? Strap yourself to a hangboard until you're chanting 3 on, 7 off, 5 on, minute off, drag, crimp, half crimp in your sleep? How about flagellating yourself on a board until your sad, hollowed-out visage is featured on a commercial for the Crag to Gym initiative?
Hey, if fresh air and sunshine are not your thing, maybe you should try Crag to Gym.
Well, now that I say these things out loud, they sound like pretty damn good ideas. But let me tell you what else I've done to keep that spring in my climbing step. It's simple. Squama by Sportiva. Honestly, I started climbing anything challenging in Sportiva Squamas a couple years back, and the difference in my bottom half confidence is remarkable. Tight but comfy enough, the Squama's edge, smear, hook, and book on high-action routes and boulders anytime, anywhere. Anywhere I climb, anyway. Look, no matter what you do, if you're trying hard enough, the fingers are going to fail. So why not shore up the bottom end with a pair of ridiculously good Sportiva Squamas and finally put an answer to the question,
what would you do for the send?
Go to Sportiva.com for a look-see or your local shop to slip on a Squama. And don't sleep on the vegan Squama. Same sending without the animal products. I think the last time I saw your face was on a screen coming in from El Chalten.
Yep.
Yeah. During the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you were basically sort of stuck down there.
Stuck, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's over on the other podcast, but tell me that story just a little bit again, that, you know, being kind of the winner in El Chalten.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, so I went there to Chalten with Nico. We were planning and staying like 3 months, I think, and Nico maybe a touch less. And then we did a bunch of first descents. It was great. We had a really good season, and then Nico left and the pandemic was starting, and Nico just kind of barely got home. And then I was going to stay 2 weeks longer. And by that time, like, all flights had been cancelled and stopped, and you couldn't move. So I was stuck in Chalten, really, for the first few months anyway. And then I was having such a good time there, and it was such an amazing place to be. It was like the best place in the world to be. So I was like, yeah, I'm fine here. So in the end, I ended up staying there for 1.5 years.
Not leaving at all.
No, I didn't know. I didn't even, like, there's a bridge going into Chalten, and I didn't cross that bridge for 1.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was your situation? Like, where were you living? Like, what? People are like, yeah, you're stuck here. Let's set you up in this place, or
totally. Yeah. The locals were awesome. They're like, I was really part of the community, and it was amazing. Yeah, I was in a friend's on a friend's piece of property. Like, he had an old caravan there that was empty, so I was sleeping in the caravan. Like never had I ever like even imagined I would ever spend like 4 seasons in Chalten, all the seasons, and just being there over the winter and all the seasons and everything. It was absolutely magical. You can see everything change, and then the activities change. You go skiing, ice climbing, and then the spring comes back and you're starting to go out bouldering, and then it was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
What was your impression of the place in winter? Because you hadn't probably spent it there in winter. Yeah,
I'd never been there for a winter. No, the winter, it's pretty different. I mean, first of all, there's no tourism in winter, so it's just locals. This was a kind of a special winter too, because it was the pandemic and everything. But it was very quiet in town, and then it was a very cold winter and lots of snow. So there was lots of ice climbing around, like just outside of town. You could like walking distance, like anywhere from 5 minutes, you could find ice falls to climb on. It was absolutely amazing. And then you could ski, like right from my caravan, I could start skiing, and we'd go out for like 5 days with this, with a backpack and skis, and just you're like skiing down these slopes with like Cerro Torre and Fitzroy in the background, and camping in the forests below. It was amazing.
So were there any other like, summer climbers that got stuck?
Yeah, there was a few. Yeah. There was a few, not super many, but there was a few people. Yeah, some Americans, and yeah.
Did they settle in the way you did, or were they like, how am I getting out of here?
There was a few who wanted to go home. Yeah, and they like, as soon as they could, they like, you had to like contact your embassy and get special permissions and stuff to travel, and then they managed to get home. But some of them were just like me. Yeah, there was definitely a few people like me who were like, this is awesome. Let's just stay here. We were seeing all the junk show that was going on in the rest of the world, and we're like, no, this is amazing. There was a lockdown in Chalten for the first 3 weeks. You weren't allowed out on the streets and stuff like that, like anywhere else, for the first 3 weeks. But then there was like no reported COVID in the town of Chalten. There was like nobody had COVID after those first 3 weeks. They just locked the bridge, that one bridge that goes into Chalten. They locked it, and nobody was allowed in or out of Chalten without a quarantine and everything. And so, all the bars and everything was open in Chalten, like, because nobody had COVID. Inside, we were in a little bubble. So all the bars and everything was open. There was parties and everything was going on. Yeah, it was great.
How'd they get supplies in?
Yeah,
the beer must have ran out pretty quickly.
Yeah, so the supplies would come from Calafate or wherever, and they would have to stop at the bridge and then unload everything, and then they would have to leave, and then another truck from Chalten would come and pick it up. Yeah, so it was pretty strict.
What a trip.
Yeah.
Wow, what a place to be.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard on the locals because they live on...
They don't have any money. They're not making money when there's no tourism.
Exactly. So it was very hard on a lot of people there, But
what did you do to pitch into that? Anything? Like, did you like... I mean, what was your empathy as far as like these locals that were having a hard time? I mean, are you out chopping wood and shit?
Yeah, I literally, I did. I was out chopping wood. Yeah, I grew my own vegetable garden too. I helped build like a little greenhouse, and putting a lot of work into the vegetable garden, trying to get some salads and some vegetables and potatoes and all that stuff.
It's hard enough to get vegetables in Argentina. With your meals and good times.
Yeah.
It was probably really hard.
Yeah.
Getting sort of fresh
in Chalten,
vegetables.
Especially in Chalten, and then during COVID,
Right. Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. And, we'll get into what you got into during that time climbing wise a little bit more. But when the thing, when it was like, oh, clear, I can go home, was there pressure? I mean, did there people wanted to see you back home and in Belgium? I mean,
sure, yeah.
Like, hey, it's time to come home, dude. And you're like, nah, I think I'll stick around.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. Yeah. People are wondering if I would ever come back home, and I definitely hesitated. Yeah.
Finally, when you did.
Yeah, but I mean, it was good to go back and see my family and friends and stuff. Yeah,
that's an awesome tale. actually.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's like, couldn't have happened to a better person in terms of like, I can just see you just relaxing into that, what that meant for you.
Yeah, it was a dream. It was a dream come true. I don't know if I told you this story, but I might have told you this story. But like when there was that quarantine, the first 3 weeks of quarantine in Chalten, I went out into the woods, like on a kind of meditation retreat, and I went out into the woods on my own and put up my tent there, out in the middle of nowhere, in the woods, and I was just meditating all day, and my plan was to stay there for 10 days and just meditate. And also every once in a while I like to do like a fast, a long fast, like a 7-day fast or something. And so I thought, I'm going to combine it with my fast. I'm just going to meditate all day and fast, like not eat. And so I was in the woods, nice. It was a beautiful place, sitting in my tent all day. I would wake up at 6 o'clock or whatever, start meditating, take some breaks every hour or 2 hours, and then maybe go for a hike or something, a little hike, and then meditate until 9 o'clock at night and then sleep. I wasn't eating because I was fasting. And so the first 2 days went really well. I was having an amazing time listening to the sounds in the forest and just like being there. And then the third day, I started feeling a little bad. Like I was something wasn't quite, like I wasn't starting to feel dizzy and lightheaded and stuff. And then there was one night I couldn't get any sleep. I was just restless. I was trying to sleep and I was getting restless. And all of a sudden I felt this little pain in the back of my throat, and I was like, fuck, I've got COVID and I'm going to fucking die here in the woods and nobody knows I'm here, and I'm just going to like, I just like weaken my immune system because I've been fasting. I'm so stupid. I'm just going to die here in the woods and nobody's ever going to find me. And so I like jumped up like in the middle of the night and cooked up some soup, and I had some soup, and immediately I started feeling better, like, because I was having like heart palpitations and just like, I was just like feeling really bad. And yeah, apparently I was just like a little hungry, or maybe I was lacking salts or something. I don't know.
Right.
I was, but that was kind of funny. And anyway, I stopped my fast, but I continued just being there, meditating for about 10 days. And then I went back to town. And by that time, town was back open and everything was back to normal in Chalten.
Right.
So that was kind of funny.
Where did you get into that? I mean, what brought you to like meditation and fasting and things like that?
I don't know, just some books and stuff that were recommended to me. Well, actually, the first time I was in Squamish, one day I went out climbing with this girl, a small girl, and I climbed this 512C or something, and it was kind of sketchy, and I think maybe I barely on-sighted it, or maybe I fell. I might have fallen on it. And this girl was going to do it too. And she asked me if she should like top rope it. It was a trad climb. It was something dangerous. Well, not super dangerous, but maybe it was like, maybe is there something called Flight of the Challenger or Flight or something?
I don't know.
Learning to fly.
You'll know better.
Something like that. Right. Anyway, it was a little bit sketchy at the start, maybe, like, and she was kind of small, and she asked if she was asking me for advice if she should top rope it or lead it, and I was like, maybe you should top rope it because it's a little sketchy, and and so I put her on a top rope and I led her on a top rope and she on-sighted it easily, like way easier than me, like. And so she came down and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'd never climbed. I'd never met her. I didn't know who she was. And I was like, I'm so sorry I made you, I just
judged you.
Yeah, I just judged you. I should have pushed you to go on a lead. And she's like, no, it's fine. Anyway, it turned out it was Hazel Finley, way back. Yeah, this is in 2009. But
you had no idea who this person was?
Well, this is back before she was
famous.
Yeah, 2009. It was Hazel Finley.
Oh my God, that's a great story.
Yeah.
You're like, sweetheart, you should probably top rope.
Yeah. I felt so bad afterwards, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I should have encouraged you to go on a lead. I didn't know. I told her. I was like, I didn't know. Like, it was the first time climbing with her, and she was like, it's fine. Anyway, she when she left, she had some books, and she left me with some books, and some of the books were like philosophy, and then we kind of became friends and stayed in contact. And then she would kind of keep up with like book recommendations every once in a while. And there was like some spiritual books in there and some books about meditation. And I always really enjoyed those books. And so I would always like, oh, that was an amazing book. Do you have any other recommendations? And then she would give me another recommendation. And then one day she wrote an email to me and she said, Sean, you should really do a meditation retreat, because otherwise you're just reading books about, it's like reading books about climbing without ever going climbing,
Right.
You should do a meditation retreat. And so I was like, okay, I need to do that. So it took a few more years before, but I always had it in mind. But then I think one year I got injured or something, and I was like, all right, I'm doing this. And so I went on a 10-day meditation retreat and kind of got into meditating and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And then it took, like, you liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not I wouldn't say I'm like a 5'8" meditator or something like that, but I like to do it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I do it and yeah, I don't know. I kind of liked, there's a lot to learn from it, and yeah, it's kind of grounding.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about your sort of your mix of culture, because obviously your name is interesting, right? And say it,
Sean Villanueva O'Driscoll,
right? And so it's like, I mean, you're like right there. You're like, wow, there's some like cultural background in that name, but then you're Belgian by nationality, by birth, or whatever. So, mom, dad, what's the mix there? The long hyphenated name.
Yeah, so my father's from Spain,
right?
Villanueva.
Okay.
From Madrid, and my mother's Irish, from Ireland. So, that's Sean is a Irish name. And
what's your middle name?
No middle name.
Oh, no middle name.
No.
They just gave you the double last name.
Yeah, because the Spanish take a double last name,
right.
so that's Villanueva is my father and O'Driscoll is my mother.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was born and raised in Belgium, but I actually don't have the Belgian nationality.
Oh, really?
I'm actually Irish Spanish, but I don't have the Belgian nationality.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was born and raised there, and I mean,
right.
If people ask me where I'm from, I usually say Belgium because that's where I was kind of. That's what.
Well, and the other thing is that it comes out in your whatever. And God, who was it? Might have been Nico that said, like, somebody told me, like, there's no one in the world that has Sean's accent. Like, it's a completely original accent.
Yeah.
Of no one else.
Yeah.
And even as you say your name, like, you can hear like suddenly the Irish come out and the O'Driscoll and stuff. So, do you ever think about the mix of influences about who you are, as far as, Irish, Spanish, Belgian?
Sure.
Like, yeah. Like, well, do you ever? How do you think about it in terms of like, you as this kid and then as this grown-up adult, sort of influencing you? Have you ever put any thought into that?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, and ever since I was born, I would go to like Ireland at least twice a year to visit. I have a lot of my mom's from a big family, so I have a lot of uncles and aunts and cousins and stuff there. So I spent a lot of time in Ireland. So I'm, pretty attached to Irish culture, and my family are very into like singing like old Irish traditional songs and things like that. So I was kind of brought up in all that kind of stuff, and so I definitely have a strong connection with Ireland. And then, I mean, Belgium, I that's where I grew up kind of most of my life. So, definitely have a connection there. And then with Spain, a lot less, because my father doesn't have any family or no connection with the family in Spain. So, a lot less connection there with Spain, but it's all part of my identity, really, isn't it? So
yeah, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, in some ways it's not really important, but yeah, it is part of my identity for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I could see like in a Celtic like war tribe at some point, and if you'd been born like 10 centuries ago, or whatever. So I don't know. It's kind of. I just was kind of wondering if like it was in your intellect to think about it, or if it's just something that you live with and aren't sure about what the influences have made you into. But all right, that's like enough like touchy-feely stuff. Let's talk about your latest thing that I saw, kind of expedition style climbing that you guys did up in Greenland. It seems like kind of a multi-year saga to get a climb done up there, and also it's like even for you, it seemed like a pretty long expedition. Or is that, what was it, like 48 days or something like that? Is that pretty standard issue for your going away on a boat? For ages.
That's kind of the shorter.
Oh, is that on the shorter end of things?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
For a sailing climbing expedition, yeah. Yeah. We've done a few like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was an absolutely amazing, a huge challenge, and absolutely amazing. So we went there last year. We sailed from Scotland last year. I was with Nico. There was Ben Ditto from Bishop, and then Franco Cookson from the UK, who's a strong, but he's mostly a head pointer. So it was his first big climber. Yeah, traditional English, like head pointing.
Yeah,
and so we had a bit of an epic to get all the way to Greenland, because there was storms in the Atlantic Ocean, and then the sea ice took a long time to clear out of the fjords in Greenland before we could sail across from Iceland. So we were stuck in Iceland for a while, and then finally we got through. And then there was a long approach, and very difficult approach, with like lots of glacier and moraine, never-ending moraine, and really difficult terrain. And on day one of hiking our loads in, Nico slipped and cut his shin pretty badly, and so he was kind of out. Well, it was a cut that needed stitches, but obviously we didn't have it, and we were far away from anything. So if that thing got infected, it could have been really bad. So he went back on the boat for 10 days to like make sure the hygiene was as good as it could get, and like recover, while the three of us were carrying loads in. Finally, after about almost I think it was almost 40 days just to get to the base of the wall or something, we were there, and we got to the base of the wall, and we looked up, and we were trying to find a line with binoculars, and there was just no lines. There's just like, it was all like just a shield of like blank rock, no features.
So how did you know about this objective?
Well, we'd heard about the Mirror Wall. It's one of the biggest walls on the east coast of Greenland, and we'd been to the west coast a few times, in the south, and then the southeast coast. But we knew that the biggest one on the east coast was the Mirror Wall, and we'd been on a radar for a while. And then there's Leo Holding had been there. We'd heard that story too, and we'd seen some images of it, and it just looked like the most badass wall in East Greenland, and it was on our radar. And then we tried to go there a few years before, but we didn't manage to go there because of, I forget what, the boat or whatever. And then so this year we did manage to get there, and then we got finally, after an epic of 40 days of just trying to get there. We're looking up with the binoculars, and we don't see any line. There's nothing there. Like, it's just a shield of granite, no features, and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And it was just Ben, Franco, and myself, because Nico was still on the boat recovering, and we were thinking about maybe repeating Leo Holding's route, and we were talking about that. But I mean, to me, it seemed like I wanted a challenge. I wanted a real challenge, and just repeating that route with a topo and everything, it seemed like, I mean, I know it's not a sure thing, but it seemed like too much of a sure thing, not enough uncertainty in trying to repeat Leo's route. So, and then all of a sudden the sun came around, because this is a north-west face, and all of a sudden the sun came around 4 o'clock. It gets 2 hours of sun, and the sun came around, and I all of a sudden I started seeing some shadows of features and stuff on the wall, and I tried to like imagine if I could put them together. And I was like, lads, that's the line we need to try. It might be impossible. Probably we won't make it. There's a lot of uncertainty, but we don't have to succeed. We just have to try, and we just have to try our best. That's all we need to do. Let's do that. And they were all psyched. And then, we thought, this little chance of succeeding, but let's just give it our best shot. And then finally, Nico joined just before we got on the wall. He felt he was recovered enough. And we got on the wall. We put up a huge fight for 9 days on that wall. Like every day was like on the verge of bailing, just like, trying hard, and like it looked impossible. And we're like, oh, maybe we need to bail. And then, all of a sudden, like maybe we might like find some tiny razor blade skyhook placements and get past the section, and then all of a sudden we'd find a piece of gear or have to place a bolt, and then all of a sudden there'd be some like 20 meters of free climbing that would go really fast, but really dangerous because it's a big run out, 20-meter run out or whatever. And so it was a mix of like really slow aid climbing progression. It was very hard aid climbing for me because I don't have a lot of experience in aid climbing, but it was mostly like hooks and bird beaks. So it was a mix of really slow progression, and then all of a sudden maybe a piece of free climbing, hard but run out free climbing. Yeah, after about a week or something, we got to this dihedral where we thought, at last we're on a feature. Like anything before it looked way harder, and at last we got to this dihedral and it was just closed, bottomed out, like rounded dihedral. There was nothing in the back, like not even a seam or nothing. So yeah, I started free climbing up it, stemming, and it was hard stemming. And then I managed to place a bolt from a skyhook at one point, and then above that, like 4 meters higher, there was a flake to the right, and I tried for 2 days to try and get to that flake, and I just couldn't get there. Like I would stem my way up and like almost reach it, and it was hard. Like the rock was like flaky and sandy and dirty, and you're like stemming, smearing, and things would break off and you go flying. And I took one big fall and hyperextended my ankle, and my ankle was like swollen and blue. And yeah, so I tried it for 2 days and just couldn't get past it. And then we were like, okay, what do we do? Do we place a bolt ladder just to get past this section and then get into the obvious crack that seemed to lead all the way to the summit, or do we bail? And we decided before that, problem is with a bolt ladder, you can get up any wall with a bolt ladder, mm-hmm. anything. So there's nothing is impossible anymore. And so you kill the challenge, kind of. So there had to be a possibility of failure for it to be a good challenge. And so we reached our point, and we'd agreed before getting on this wall that looked impossible, that we weren't gonna kill the impossible.
Right.
So yeah, we were placing bolts, but we had decided there has to be like at least hard aid climbing or free climbing between bolts. So you can't place a bolt from a bolt, is kind of what we said.
Okay.
So it's kind of subjective, because like a stronger free climber might place the bolts further apart, but we wanted the bolts to be a certain distance. That was what we chose. That was our ethic. I mean, I'm not judging anybody else, but that was what we decided. I think for Nico and I, that's always been important. That the challenge is alive. And so we got there, and we couldn't aid climb past it. We couldn't free climb past it. So that was it. So we went back down, and as soon as we pulled that first rope down, I felt so good. I was like, oh, it's so close. Like, it's such an amazing line, such an improbable line. And we could see that crack, like maybe 30 meters higher, that seemed to lead all the way to the summit. And it seemed like a beautiful crack on this head wall. And you could just imagine like being up there climbing this perfect crack like on the head wall with it'd be like climbing Salate way up there.
Shirts off,
being the first
pair of shorts, chalk bag.
Yeah. But we didn't get there, It was just such an improbable and amazing line. I was like, I'm coming back.
Let me go back though for a second, because there's like boldness, like Franco practices, right?
Right.
This like chess match of figuring out the way to get those routes done that he does, which are these completely improbable, stitched together bad gear, head point, practice it until you think you can do it. And then there's boldness like what you're up to. And sure, it's a bolt, right? And as soon as people say bolts, well then, it's not that bold. But I mean, 2 days I mean, what kind of whippers you taking on this thing? Like big ass whippers.
Yeah, I mean, not huge whippers, but maybe 8 or 10 meters. Yeah. Yeah, big enough for me to be scared. Yeah,
but also like the commitment, like taking big, it's 10-meter whippers is a fairly big fall. But you're also in Greenland, and you're also like any risks you're taking are compounded by the fact of where you are.
Yeah,
right. No ambulance is coming for you.
No,
and even hyperextending your ankle. I mean, I'm sure made the trek out fucking lame.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's just like, I mean, and you guys have done that all over the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a hallmark of you guys, like, not just you, Nico, but the crew that you roll with when you go and do these things. Because Ben's a repeat offender on these trips and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, are you just able to shut out those thoughts of like, what if I get fucked up? I mean, you just go into the moment when you're scrambling up these, or like you're, stuff's falling out from underneath your feet and hands while you're up above the bolt in the middle of nowhere.
No, you try to be safe. I mean, you're conscious of where you are. Like
right.
If you fall and you have you break a leg, or you're in deep shit. Like it's going to be a massive problem. So you're conscious about it. So you try to stay as safe as possible. But on the other, you know how it is. It's like adventure trad climbing. You try and take calculated risks, and there's definitely the risk is part of the challenge, and you have to feel it. Mm-hmm. You have to know how far you're willing to go, and it's definitely not a science. It's more of a feeling, I think.
Well, I pulled this quote out, and maybe you'll recognize it, but, the quote is, "I have a very particular set of skills."
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that's from?
Rings a bell, no?
Liam Neeson, Taken.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know you're an action movie fan.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
And I was like looking around on the internet, and I thought of that quote, because I feel like it applies to you in a way that, even the way, this is sort of an addendum in a way to Nico's interview from earlier this year, because I asked him to talk about you a lot because of your partnership. And I'll probably do the same on here, although we've already brought him up. But he talked about like your skills and what you bring to the team. And it just, that thought came to me, is that like you have a particular set of skills. You obviously have logistical planning skills. You have, I think, a tack mode or whatever it is, where you can put the hammer down even above the gear and into unknown territory in really bad conditions at times. Thinking of the riders on the Storm and what you guys would free climb through in terms of conditions that would make us, the rest of us, go home like 100%. And then just like that, go for it attitude, but you guys have made it through. You haven't like fucked yourself up. So you do have a governor. You do have some conscious view of like the risks and things like that. I mean, can you elaborate on any of that? I mean, it's like talking about how cool you are is like tough for most people that have some sort of humility. But like, do you think you bring these like special characteristics to the expeditions that you do? Or have you ever thought about what like your strengths are as a climber is really the question.
Yeah, I don't know. There's,
Well, let me say this too. It's Nico too pointed out, like growing up when you guys first were climbing together, like he's like, yeah, he just tried so hard. He wasn't like, I don't want to put words in his mouth because I can't remember what he said, but it was basically like, yeah, he had to try a lot harder than some other people to get to become a good climber.
Yeah.
Like it was more of a like, I will bite this off and I will tear at it until I can do it.
Right.
While I think Nico is probably much more of a, like walked into something that he was, kind of talented at right away. So I mean, that kind of colors this conversation a little bit in the sense of who you are as a climber.
Yeah, totally. No, I think like I wasn't straight away a talented 9A climber or something like that, but I had other gifts, and I think try hard is definitely in that. Yeah.
And what about like discomfort?
Yeah. accepting discomfort and suffering. Yeah, to suffer. Yeah, that's all in there. Yeah, I think that's more like innate in me. Like, yeah, maybe it's like connected to my Irish roots or something. You know.
Yeah,
I think I definitely got.
That's a long-suffering country.
Maybe some of that from my mother too. You know. Yeah, she would, bring me out running in the rain or something, going for jogs in the rain when I was a kid and things like that. And, definitely.
Try to toughen you up.
Toughen up, yeah.
Nice. So you guys bailed. You managed to get out.
Yeah.
And hobbling around on your ankle, I suppose.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad. I just like tightened up a little bit, and it was a little sore, but it wasn't bad. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I've had worse.
How was the trip home?
It was pretty rough, also like rough seas, and then the engine broke on the way back. So without an engine, you're like kind of you're really depending
vulnerable.
Vulnerable, and depending on the elements, you need wind. When there isn't any wind, you can't move, and if the wind, so we had to like out in sea, just like waiting for wind for a few days, and then finally we got some wind, and we managed to get our way back to Iceland. And then the plan was to try and fix the engine in Iceland. That kind of didn't work out, so we in the end we left the sailboat in Iceland with all of our big wall gear, and we flew back to Europe. And then I like I said, I knew straight away that I was coming back, and I told the guys I'm coming back next year, and they were all like, it had been a huge epic, and it's a huge investment of time, money. It's a huge investment, and they were all like, nah, we're not coming back. We're doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find a new team. So I started looking, and then it was actually Nico who talked to Pete, and Pete was psyched to go to Greenland.
Yeah.
And Nico said, Sean, you should talk to Pete. And I'd climbed with Pete in Patagonia the year before, so
right.
It was great climbing with him in Patagonia. We'd had some great adventures together. And so I called Pete, and he was like, I told him, like, Pete, this is really far from being a sure thing. It's possible that we just get up to the same place and we have to bail again. I don't know if it'll go. And he's like, yeah, that's part of the expedition, isn't it? Let's do it. He was psyched, and he was like, let's go. Yeah. And then,
I was actually thinking when you were talking about putting the bolt ladder in, it's like, if you don't want to put a bolt ladder in, you can always just get Pete Whitaker too.
Yeah.
Like, it's about the same thing. It's a bolt ladder.
Yeah.
As far as sure things are concerned.
It's a sure thing. Yeah. It's a sure thing. Yeah.
But so you talked him into it. Who else?
And then we were looking for other climbers, and we didn't quite know who to invite. And then one day I was watching this reel rock with what's it called? It's like Climb With My Heart or something with Sasha Aman in Japan. I don't know if you've seen that thing, but I was thinking, maybe Sasha could be like a good asset for this or whatever. But he doesn't have any big wall experience, and I didn't know. I climbed with him one day, but I didn't know if it would be really his thing or whatever. But Keita shows up in that. Keita Kurakami shows up in that movie, and I was like, he's the guy to ask. Like, so I asked Keita, and he was like straight away, let me see if I can make this happen. He's like, yes, let's go. And I told him this is going to be, I told him about the previous year and everything, and it was really hard. And he answered something like that. Yeah, I really loved his answer. It was something like along the lines of like, it sounds like this is going to be a huge mental challenge, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I was like, that's the spirit we need. This is the guy I need,
Mm-hmm.
And then we were looking for a fourth guy, and we wanted like somebody to take a photographer or somebody to film. And Keita had a friend, Takemi Suzuki, another guy from Japan. And so, that was the team. At first, it was the four of us. And I had actually asked Julia Cassou, a French photographer, before. But she'd never got back to me. She'd never seen this. She'd never gotten the message, or she'd never saw the message. And then when she found out that we were going, she was like, it's my dream. And I don't take much space. Is there any space? I can fit in the hall.
Well, she has experience sailing too.
Yeah.
She was on that trip with Seb Barrett when they came across to do El Cap.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's like, I don't take much space. Can I come, please? And we were like, so we kind of, saw what we could do, and we're like, all right, we can make a fifth. Let's go. And so that was the team. There was 5 of us. And then just like 2 weeks before leaving, Keita was actually training for Greenland on Mount Fuji. He was doing some cardio, and he got a heart attack. Like all of a sudden he had a heart attack, and he passed away. It was really tragic, a big shock, because we were like, we were really getting psyched, organizing the expedition, talking, calling each other and, trying to get things organized, and we were all getting psyched. And then all of a sudden, Takemi sent me a message. Keita passed. And that was it. That was the message. And I was like, maybe it's a Japanese.
Right, like the translation problem.
Yeah, maybe it's a translation problem.
Right.
And so I asked.
Like Keita left or Keita. Right.
And so I asked him, is everything okay? And in English that means something really serious. And he's like, he had a heart attack. He died on Mount Fuji. He said like, he was he's a mentor to me. He's one of my best friends. I can't go to Greenland without him. Right. But you guys decide what you do. But I can't go. So there was just. Pete, Julia, and myself, and we hesitated for a while. We thought what we were going to do, so close, like it was just before the expedition, and then we decided to go anyway. With Keita's kind of spirit, also, I think, and we wanted to find a 4th person, and Pete had his friend Sean Warren in mind, who's like a experienced El Cap 8 climber. And he was like, right away, he's like, very short notice, he was like, let's go.
Right. Yeah, that seems like a hard call. I mean,
I think he had maybe a week of notice or something.
Right.
Really hard notice. He's like, let me talk to my girlfriend.
Let me quit my job.
Yeah, he quit his job or whatever. Talked to my boss and girlfriend, he said, and he managed to get it done. And
okay, cool.
He's like, I'm coming. So that was the team, the 4 of us, And it was absolutely amazing, great team.
Right. And I mean, tell us about the climb.
Obviously, this year we were a lot more efficient in the hiking, because last year we didn't know where to go on the glacier, and so it took us a long time to actually figure out the itinerary through all the moraine and the crevasses and everything. And so this year I knew where to go, where to walk, where the most efficient place was on the moraine and the glacier to walk. So we got there in Greenland. Straight away we started carrying in loads, and after 1 week we had all the loads at the base of the wall, and we were ready to get on the wall. And this year actually we were a lot less fortunate with the weather. It was a lot of bad weather, a lot of rain, snow. Last year we had 2 days of rain. All the other days were just blue skies, like a month of blue skies and 2 days of rain. This year we might have had 2 days of blue sky, and all the rest was like cloudy or rainy or snowy. Yeah, it was pretty bad weather this year, pretty bad. Because Greenland usually in summer has like they call it Arctic high. It's always good weather normally in the summer, but this year it wasn't the case. There was no Arctic high this year. Everything was wet, and on the first few pictures we got, like at Advanced Base Camp, we got like pinned down in our tents for 2 days because of the rain. And then Pete and I did the first section up to the big ledge, the easier part. It was kind of wet, but we managed to get through. And then we got on the wall pretty fast, and then it was just raining and snowing. So we just like slowly worked our way up. Sometimes we were just climbing, an hour in a day or something. As soon as it stopped raining or whatever, we'd go, and sometimes the rock would still be wet, but we'd see what we could get done. And we kept moving up and up and up, and then finally we got back to this dihedral in the high point. And the big difference was also that last year I had done most of the leading because Nico was injured, and like his cut started to show signs of infection again when we got on the wall, so he had to take it easy. Like Franco was a bit out of his element on-sighting up a big wall. It was first time on a big wall, and he wasn't like up for like on-sighting into unknown terrain. Like he was more used to like top roping, and then once he had it completely dialed, and Ben wanted to lead, but like nothing that was too dangerous, and like there was just no protection, so it was dangerous climbing. So it was mostly me. It was doing the leading. Like in the morning, we would wake up, and usually on a big wall, you wake up in the morning and it's like, who's climbing today? But here we would wake up in the morning and I'd hear, who's belaying today? So
you're like, I am me. It's my turn.
No, I want to I want to climb. I want to lead. I want to lead as much as I can. So it was fine for me. And they were like, they were super supportive. Like even when I was leading, they were like, they would belay me in the cold and the wind and for 9 hours, on a hanging belay or whatever, and they'd be like, encouraging me, and they were definitely doing everything. That they were supporting me like in many ways. There's lots of things to do on a big wall, and they were doing everything, but I was doing most of the leading. Pretty exhausting mentally and physically,
Yeah.
And so I imagine that when I got to dihedral, I was pretty exhausted. Pretty tired. I know, like there were big days, and like every night I would get back to the portaledge and I'd be pretty exhausted. And like I said, every day we were on the verge of bailing. But so this year, there was Pete and Sean, and they actually did most of the leading. I only led one pitch of that hard section from the ledge up, so I only led one pitch. It was mostly they were leading all the pitches that I had done last year. Yeah, that was kind of their plan. Pete was like, "Okay, Sean, you just take it easy. We're gonna lead these pitches, and then when we get to the dihedral, it's your rematch. It's all you're on." So that was kind of Pete's plan, So he was like, so Sean was doing the hard aid climbing, and then Pete would do the hard free climbing, the run out free climbing. And we were all pretty impressed with some of the leads I'd done last year. Like, Sean was even like, he was like on some of this hooking, he was like, "You're a pretty good aid climber for a free climber." and Pete was like very impressed with like the free climbing into this unknown terrain, way above your last piece, not knowing if you're going to find a piece, and it's kind of hard climb. And myself too, I was like,
I said, I can't very particular set of skills.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Like that, because you're right. The whole questing up something where it's whatever 10 meters run out, but somebody's done it before and there's going to be a piece, is way different than being 10 meters, going 10 meters, not knowing if there's another 10 and another 10 and another 10 without any gear. It's that's rad. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's not everybody can do that. Obviously. Yeah. You found that out on the first expedition. So anyway, you get to get to your
get to the dihedral. So like Pete and Sean basically brought me to the dihedral. They followed my topo from last year. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, "All right, Sean, you're on." And then so I got to the dihedral, and like we both talked a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to, get back into this dihedral a little bit." And Pete was like, "Yeah, just take it easy, like take a few small falls, start, build up your confidence, and then you can get it done." And so that was my plan. Like, I thought, I'm just gonna go up there today, go above the bolt a little bit, take a few falls, and then slowly build up my confidence. But I got up to the bolt, rested on the bolt for a while, looked up at the flake, and then I was like, "All right, let's go." And I started climbing, and I just got into this flow and started feeling really good. And got to the flake, and like the year before, I was like 10 centimeters from the flake. Like, I got really close, but I just couldn't reach it. And this year, I just got, like, first time I just got there, and I was like, there it is. And I just reached out and I grabbed it and put in a piece and got past it. And then I managed to get past the section. I'd climbed another little section and another piece of free climbing. And then there was another pitch of hard aid that Sean Warren did, that I sent Sean Warren up. I saw it was like, that it was going to be hard aid climbing. So that was Sean Warren's skills. So I sent him up, and he got us to the crack system that went all the way to the summit. And then we were in this amazing crack system. Like, this first pitch was I describe it as magic line, magic line in Yosemite, because it's like a hard seam climbing. magic lime with salate exposure and eternal flame setting. So it's just like amazing pitch. And then so there's one pitch of hard that was really hard that we 8 climbed up, and then after that it was finger crack, like maybe 12C finger crack, like on this head wall. You know, you've got like 600 meters of air to the glacier, and you're on this head wall, like a salate exposure, really. And you're just like free climbing, and then we free climbed everything to the top. Like it was just straightforward crack climbing of all sizes. Kind of starts like it kind of started as a seam, then fingers, and then kind of widened up. And there was some off-width pitches up there, which, you know, is right up Pete's alley and my alley too. You know, I love off-width climbing too, but Pete's a complete master in off-widths. And well, Pete's good at everything really. He's a really good all-rounder, but you know how he's in off-widths. He's really known for his off-widths. So it was cool to find some really nice off-widths, and then it kind of finished with a pitch or two of chimneys, and then we got to the summit, and there was this balcony, and we just like sat on the summit with our feet dangling, like with 1,000 meters below us. And there was the first day of sun, and we just sat there in the sun, like dangling, and we just couldn't believe we just climbed this like insane line, like just amazing line. Like the first part looks completely blank. It's such an improbable line, and then you get to this crack system that's just amazing, like pitch after pitch of just pure quality climbing. Yeah, amazing stuff. And the last pitch we left that one for Julia. We was like, Julia, this pitch is yours. You know, she climbed 2 pitches. There was one pitch on a pillar, and then she climbed the last pitch. We sent her up there, so she brought us to the summit, and yeah, it was amazing. We just sat there for hours, dangling, our feet dangling in the air on this summit sofa, and then it was amazing. We just climbed the mirror wall, this new line that's absolutely king line, you know, amazing. Like first time I stood there, you know, it just seemed so improbable, and I'm having this vision, and then being able to finish it was a total dream, you know. And then we went back to the portal edges, and we still had a week left before the boat would pick us up, and the weather was still good, so we're like, let's try and free climb as many pitches as we can. So we took one rest day because we were pretty wrecked from all the climbing before. We took a rest day, and then we started working the pitches and trying to free climb as much as we could. And we managed to free climb pitches up to 8B. There's like 3 or 4 pitches we weren't able to free because of time and, well, difficulty obviously. But yeah, we kind of each had our own little pitches that we would try. We'd go off and mini track, try to figure out the gear. But yeah, I think the whole thing would go free, but it's really hard. It's at least 5:14 or something. And
right.
The problem is that the time frame in a sailing climbing expedition to there is limited, because the ice only clears up in end of July, and then there's like a week of approach to get, and then the weather kind of turns bad in September, so you can maximum stay maybe 20 days on the wall there if you're doing a sailing climbing expedition. Maybe if those pitches were like at my home crag, I could imagine like trying to work them and maybe trying to red point them, but up there it would just take me too much time and too much. It's like really hard free climbing for me.
Well, let me ask you this about the sailing climbing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not unique to you guys, but it feels like you did kind of like bring it back into style. I mean, you know, obviously there were, you know, people had to sail to the frickin' Himalayas back in the day, right? Mm-hmm. Just because that's how you got around. But when was the first time you did a sailing climbing expedition? What was the first one? Because it's like something that we sort of, you know, it's what you guys do now. And you sort of seem to have like talked some other Belgians into doing it. Caro's into it, you know, like. Yeah. So to talk about that a little bit.
Well,
or when was the first one when you were like, let's sail somewhere to go climbing?
Yeah. So Nico's parents had a sailboat, so he would like he had a lot of sailing experience, and he had done a lot of sailing. I think it was in 2008 or 2009 we went to Mount Asgard, and there's like a really long approach from Mount Asgard, and we walked for 21 days was the approach, like varying loads before we started climbing. 21 days of hiking before we climbed, and then we climbed for a week or 10 days or something, and then we had to hike back, for another 10 days or something. So it was a lot of hiking for only it was 30 days of hiking for maybe 10 days of climbing.
Yeah, the ratio's off.
Yeah. And then when we got back from that, I remember Nico saying we need to do a sailing climbing expedition, and it would be great to combine those two. And Greenland seemed like because there's like some big walls going from the sea and stuff, and Greenland seemed like a great option. And then we found the contact of Captain Bob Shepton, Reverend Captain Bob Shepton,
right?
A complete character,
right?
The captain of the Dodo's Delight.
Sure.
He was 75 at the time, and he had a lot of sailing experience in Greenland, and kind of got his email, through friends of friends or whatever. And we contacted him. We were actually asking him if he could suggest us any big walls. And he actually sent us a picture of a massive big wall going straight out of the sea. And he said, "Oh, there was like kind of debate. He was like, oh, yeah, there's this wall here. It looks amazing, but I'm not going to tell you where it is. If you want to climb it, you have to be on my boat. You have to be part of my." And he said, "And I'm leaving in, I think it was a month or something, or maybe it was 40 days or something. I'm leaving in 40 days, so let me know if you want to come on my boat or not." And this just 75-year-old retired priest that we didn't know, or like, and we gave him a call on Skype, or we Skyped or whatever. We had a chat with him, and we're like, "Yeah, we're coming," Yeah, and then that was it. And then we met him in Greenland, and we sailed around. And so that we sailed around the fjords in Greenland, and we sailed up to this wall, and he just like moored up against the big wall, and we climbed straight out of the boat. So the year before, we had 30 days of walking, and there was like just, you step off the boat, like there was no approach. Basically, you had a floating base camp.
I remember those images. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so that was and then we did a few expeditions with Bob and the Dodo's Delight. We made the famous movie. Also, there's first we made the first expedition. We did there's a vertical sailing. Greenland vertical sailing series that are on the internet somewhere. There's a movie, and then the second expedition we did the Dodo's Delight movie, and it was great. Bob Shepton is a total character.
Right.
He's 90 now. He's still sailing around. He's still sending us messages. Come on, let's go on an expedition.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he was with us last year, but he wasn't with us this year. Just didn't work out. But he's still sailing and he's still going. He's 90 years old.
Nice.
Yeah. For that first expedition, we won a golden ice axe, which was crazy too, because we didn't, we're
rock climbers.
We didn't even use an ice axe for that expedition. So we didn't even think we could even get nominated for an ice axe, golden, a piolet d'or, I suppose it's called.
Yeah.
But, so we were invited to the Piolet d'Or, and then we were awarded a Piolet d'Or. It was absolutely mind-blowing and amazing, great, amazing experience with Bob and everything, It was great. Like, actually, the guys from Piolet d'Or called us, and they said, "Yeah, you guys are the four of you are nominated for a Piolet d'Or for your expedition in Greenland. Can you come to the event?" And we're like, "Oh, we'll only accept this if you invite Bob too. He was part of the expedition, he was part of choosing the lines. He was part of bringing us there." So they said, "Oh yeah, of course. That we'll take. Sorry, Bob can be part of the team too. We'll take the five of you." So they invite us over, and the jury.
He must have been tickled, Bob, to go and get this award.
Yeah. Bob loved it. Yeah, absolutely. He absolutely loves that kind of stuff. Yeah. So he was absolutely. It was great. Yeah, and then we went on tour with him too, like just roughing it. He's a total like, he can be a total dirtbag. He can live he absolutely. He's just like sleeping in the van, sleeping in airports, sleeping in the ground, whatever. And So it was.
Is he a British guy?
Yeah, he's Scottish.
Scottish.
Yeah.
He'd punch me if I said
no,
that.
No. He's British. He's British.
Okay.
He's
cool.
British.
Okay.
Yeah. He wouldn't punch you. But he's Scottish. He lives in Oban, Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got an incredible life story. I mean, he's 90 years old. He was in the army. and then he became a reverend, like a priest. So and then he started sailing pretty late in life, and started sailing and doing these sailing climbing expeditions. And, so amazing character.
Yeah, I mean, do people bug you, like you guys, for advice on sailing climbing expeditions?
Yeah,
because you guys have made yourselves sort of the experts.
Yeah,
and you didn't sail before that, right?
I never sailed.
Sailed.
Nico is very experienced.
Did you do any sailing before you went on that trip?
No.
Yeah, how'd that first trip go?
Yeah, I got very sick. Yeah. On the Atlantic Traverse, so traversing back from Greenland to Scotland, we sailed back to Scotland. It took us 15 days. It was really rough. Yeah, I think on day 5 we were about halfway, and then storms and storms and storms, and then on day 10 we were still halfway. And then I vomited for the first 9 days of those 15 days of crossing. Every day I was vomiting for 9 days in a row. Like just the last 6 days I stopped vomiting, but so it was rough. Yeah, it was rough.
Does that cure you? Like, do you not have a problem with it anymore?
Well, actually, every expedition, I was vomiting. Every expedition, every sailing expedition we did, I was vomiting.
It's just, you just sign up for at least a few days of vomiting.
Yeah. It's kind of, just part of the experience.
Right. It's part of your fasting.
Yeah,
it's
kind of.
I don't need to fast because I'm vomiting.
Yeah.
I can eat whatever I want.
Yeah. It's kind of a choice too, because I've never tried taking any medication or anything. Okay. I'm like, this is part of the experience. The medication would only take me away from the experience. So
you have a very particular set of skills.
So I just
you see what I'm getting at with that thing?
So I just accept that that's part of it, and I just but I'm a bit of a zombie. Sometimes when I'm seasick and I'm just
you don't have any nutrients getting into your body. They're going out into the to attract sharks.
So it's like survival. I'm just I'm helming. I'm doing my part of the work, whatever. I'm helming and I'm lying down, but I can't do anything. I can't cook. I can't do anything. I have to either be watching. I'm either watching the horizon or I'm lying down horizontally. But that's all. I can't do anything. After everything. And this year I was super strategic about it. I was like, all right, I'm going to be super strategic. I had my toothbrush in my pocket. I wasn't going because I can't look for anything. I can't. If I try to look for something in my bag, I'm going to get seasick. So this year I had everything on me that I needed for the whole traverse, and that's all I did. Was I was either outside staring at the horizon, or I was down in my bed lying horizontally, eyes closed. That was it. And I didn't get. This is the first time I didn't get sick. First time I got to Greenland without vomiting.
Wow! Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, Greenland and back.
You sent
and back. So the whole
What?
So it was a full send. I got there without vomiting, climbed the mirror wall, and then came back without vomiting. The whole thing. So complete send.
All right.
Yeah.
How were the seas?
Yeah, they were choppy. Okay. We didn't have much wind this time, so there was a lot of motoring, unfortunately. But there was some choppy seas for sure. Yeah, it was pretty choppy.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, you're proving my thesis moment by moment here about who you are as an expedition member and climber. But one particular thing, about all of your media, about your legend in a lot of ways is the good times, the having fun on the ledges, the musical instruments, the goofing around, the jumping on floaties into the ice water, all the things is a hallmark of the way you guys operate out there. How does that fit into what you want to get out of an expedition in terms of you can suffer, but you seem to also go to great lengths to try to have a good time. The jokes about, when I talk with Nico about we didn't bring any of that stuff, but we brought a guitar, kind of a thing, or we've hauled all this shit up these walls or whatever else. So yeah, talk a little bit about that. Is this just personality? And I think it also marks again, wanting to talk about you obviously you and Nico are this kind of legendary pair, and even though you do climb a ton with other people, this last expedition he didn't go on and things like that, but you guys have set yourself up as like a Nico and Sean. It's like a phrase. So talk a little bit about like getting along that way, and my friend Hayden Kennedy used to say you can't put a price on morale. Yeah.
I mean, we're super privileged and lucky to have found each other, or I'm definitely very lucky to have run into Nico, when I started climbing or whatever, more than 30 years ago now.
Right.
And I think we clicked together because we had the same like attraction to like the more adventure. Even though back then we were like more sport climbers, we were attracted to adventure. Like we would hitchhike from Belgium to the south of France and like baby everywhere and sleep under the crags, and so it was adventurous even though we were sport climbers back then.
Yeah, I know the vibe you're talking about. Yeah. Where you're just approaching it with like a little bit more of a who knows what's going to happen tomorrow kind of vibe, even though the climbing itself isn't really the issue. Yeah. And then when we started expeditions and stuff, there's going to be suffering on an expedition, but going to these places it's your choice to be there. So even if there's suffering and everything like that, you might as well enjoy it, so you might as well enjoy every moment, because I mean, you don't have to go there. It's your choice to go there. So, when you're suffering, you might as well enjoy it. I think it might have been a quote from Kurt Albert or something I read. Yeah. And Nico was also like, he was kind of brought up like that too. Like, enjoy yourself. Like when he got back from school, his mother would always tell him, play first and you can do your homework later, so it kind of instilled him that, you have to have fun. And he definitely brought that along too, and I remember there was one time we were bouldering, and I was always really bad at bouldering. I was better at sport climbing. I was never super good or anything, but I was better at sport climbing, and I would do a lot of it, and I think I was a lot of times I was overtrained and stuff, and bouldering would always feel so hard, and I was just useless in bouldering. And then I was climbing with Nico, and I got really frustrated because I was doing so bad at the bouldering. I wasn't getting up these boulders. And Nico, he came up to me and he said, "Sean, if you would just boulder for the sake of bouldering and not see it as training for sport climbing or whatever, you might have more fun and you would climb better." And I was like, "What? If you have more fun, you climb better? What?" And I was like I'd never like kind of made that link, like that if you're enjoying yourself, you climb better. It's not that, it might not be that obvious in the beginning, And then I was like, I think people almost feel the opposite.
Oh yeah,
right. Like that they have to like dig into this like animal angry place to get like a route done.
Yeah, But then somehow, it made a lot of sense, and it was like, if you just enjoy yourself and don't like put pressure on yourself or don't see it as training or whatever, just see it as play, then you actually climb better. And that's kind of what, we kind of brought that kind of spirit to the expeditions and stuff too,
Isn't it hard to remember that when it's like freezing ass cold and it's snowing, and how do you dig deep into the play at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. It just,
you're just like, it's fucked. It's so hilarious.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's kind of experience in all these expeditions and stuff, and taught us that, and you kind of have to climb in these conditions. Like what we did in Riders in the Storm. Conditions were so cold and so bad. Like that's the only way is if you're going to enjoy yourself and have fun. And I remember this one climb we did in I think it was in Baffin, and we were climbing with an Italian guy. There was an Italian. The conditions were just like awful. It was windy and cold and just like snowing a bit, and we were going up this wall, and I could feel the morale of the whole team was kind of, like, what the fuck are we doing here? We were on a push of a 600-meter wall or whatever, and we were on a push, and the conditions were just awful. And it was the feel was kind of, what the fuck are we doing here? And then I just shouted. "I don't like reggae." And Nico started laughing, and the Italian guy's just looking at me, what the fuck? And then Nico and I, we both shouted, I love it, and that's kind of, that just kind of brought our spirits up, and we were like, let's fucking enjoy this, let's just go,
All right, can you talk about a time? I mean, let me say this, like the videos again punctuated by good times, then climbing hard, but like, no, like, or at least not tons of footage I've seen of you puking on the boat, things like that, like that was it's probably in a video at some point, but that's the first I've heard of it, that you get sick for 9 days in a row.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, here's this image that you guys are just like literally like dancing your way through these climbing things or playing music through them. But what's a time when like it didn't fucking work? Like it just got down and dirty and it wasn't like no quoting music lyrics was going to get you back into a good mood. Can you think of a time, or does it just not exist?
Not really. Like, or
it got dire,
there was one time in Albania, following this river from the source to the sea with pack rafts, paraglider, and climbing gear. And so we were like canoeing down this river and doing, if we see a nice mountain or whatever, we would hike or climb up and then paraglide down. And if we see nice rock, we'd do some rock climbing. All this while it was 300 kilometers or something, just pack rafting down this river, class 3 or 4, I forget. But it was pretty serious river. There was some serious sections. So it was a big adventure. And there was a professional paraglider with us, Tom de Dorledo, who was an awesome guy, good friend of ours and a professional paraglider. He was kind of guiding us on the paragliding, and we were kind of guiding him on the climbing. And we saw there was this one wall. It looked pretty chossy, but Nico and I were like, the usual kind of like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And Tom was a little nervous about it, but Nico and I were playing music and having fun, but he obviously doesn't have a lot of experience on that kind of terrain and stuff. So really, we shouldn't have brought him up there. For us, it was easy. It was an easy climb, but for him, it was really serious, and, it's really chossy climbing. So he was stressed. And after a few pitches, he was seconding, obviously. We would lead up. He was seconding, and he pulled off a huge block, came off, television-sized block or something, came off and kind of hit his hand against the rock and chopped off his finger, like his index finger, like in the middle of his index finger. And so
gone.
Yeah, gone. The finger was gone.
Some rat has it.
Yeah, like we looked for it and we couldn't find it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So shit got real.
Shit got real. Yeah. That wasn't not funny. Yeah, that's the worst.
Right.
That's the worst moment we've had for me personally. Nico's had a few other accidents on climbing walls with other partners. But that was the worst one that I was on anyway. And it was really bad, and it was terrible because we were supposed to be guiding him,
Sure.
And this happened while we were supposed to look after him.
Right.
And he's lost part of his index finger. We're really lucky that he's an awesome guy. He's a true adventurer at heart. Like, he's a really good guy, and like he never blamed us, or he never it was for him. It was he was always a good sport about it.
And to be clear, it was like guided in the sense of,
we weren't working.
You were in charge of him knowing how or being able to climb by putting the ropes up, but you weren't working. Yeah. So what happened? You guys bandaged it up, kept down the river, or you're in Albania. Were you able to get out quick enough?
Yeah.
You're among towns and villages and things.
Yeah. We bandaged him up, and we managed to get back down to a village. It was still a 5-hour hike or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And then we managed to get him to hospital, and he got treatment, and he's like Tommy now. He's like Tommy Caldwell.
Right.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
No, he's still a professional paraglider, and he's still doing huge adventures. I think he's done all those Red Bull X Alps there where they paraglide across. He's done pretty much all of them.
It's like it's a sort of a a semi-happy story in the end because he's like you guys got him out and he's not like.
But that was definitely a moment where.
But I'm just saying, like of all the shit you've done, that's the worst.
Yeah.
That you've been like right next to.
Yeah. Yeah. Nico has had some other ones.
Right.
Yeah, but
have you been in any of these rescues in Patagonia and stuff?
Yeah,
you must have been there.
Yeah.
But that's different than being on your own trip.
Yeah, I mean the rescues in Patagonia. We went to get friends and stuff like that, but it wasn't our own thing. Yeah, it's something different. Yeah, I've been on some serious rescues in Patagonia. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was one of the Nico and I were climbing, and a friend. Was doing an attempt on Pointsonot and he got stuck in bad weather, and they got back down to the glacier and he collapsed, and his friend thought he was dead, so he kind of abandoned him there and went back to town. But he took his time. He even met people and everything along the way. He took his time and he went to his hotel, had something to eat, had a shower, and then he came to tell us that our friend Chino had just died, and we were like all devastated. And so one of my friends went to the doctor to ask like what do we do next? Like how should we go recover the body, or what's next? And the doctor said, there's a good chance he's probably still alive. He's just hypothermia. You can't really feel a pulse when hypothermia, and you can't really see the breathing, but his heart might still be beating. We organized the CACs, the local rescue club, organized a rescue, and we went up there, and it was, I forget, but it was definitely more than 24 hours or something after he'd been up there in bad weather. It might have been 30 hours or something when we got up there, and we carried him down, with the whole CAC. So there was there was many climbers and locals helping to carry him down, and it was a huge effort. It took us 2 days to get him down or whatever, and he got to the hospital. And there was still a heartbeat, but it was very, very low. It was I don't remember what it was, but his heartbeat was really low, and there was really little chance of getting him back. And then as they tried to heat him up, his heart gave up.
Right,
and he passed away. That was
heavy.
Yeah, pretty heavy.
Right.
Heavy rescue, yeah.
So I talked to Carol North today earlier, and she's like, it's interesting because she's like she does a little more alpine and things like that, but it feels like, and I know you're friends with her as well, but like she's sort of a compatriot in this style and this vibe, and she does the sailing and all these sorts of things. And but she spoke of like a time in her mid-20s when she was like I gotta like slow down just a little bit, or I have to take more time between expeditions to just try to be a little bit more normal, or more have like interests in the rest of life and things like that, after like just years of just hammering. Like, do you ever take stock of that? I mean, you're what, like 40 or so?
43.
Oh, you're 43.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, and it's been a lot of years of a lot of expeditions. Was there ever a time where you felt like there was a shift in how you kind of approached this thing, or decided about different priorities in life, or has it just always been the main priority? I mean, it's obviously always been the main priority, but you see what I'm getting at? Yeah.
I mean, I take a lot of importance in like how I feel and everything. So like definitely like when I come back from big expeditions and I feel exhausted or whatever, I take my time to recover, and sometimes that might be a year or whatever, but yeah, I make sure that when I'm going on an expedition that I feel like I want to go,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely have to like check that, like, I'm not going on an expedition because it's just business as usual or whatever, that I'm going because I want to go. I think that's something that's really important. Yeah, because like when you're doing expeditions like me for so many years and stuff like that, sometimes it could. I remember reading a book of Paul Pritchard, and he was talking about like that at one point he was doing this expedition and he was just doing it because that's what he does, you know. He was just tired of it actually, and he was on this expedition and he actually didn't want to be there, you know. He was just like, I make sure that like, yeah, that I take enough rest between expeditions, and yeah, I see other people sometimes going like on one expedition back to back and stuff like that. I definitely need some time after expeditions or whatever to recover and to recharge the batteries.
Did you ever mess up and go on one where you were like I'm not here?
No,
you've never.
No. Like I make sure I want to be there. Yeah.
Actually, there's one other story, and it goes back to your beginnings that I kind of want to hear. That I read about, and that is like this. Early on, when you were and Nico were pretty young, going up to the Radicon and climbing Headless Children.
Oh yeah, epic. Our first multi-pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell a little bit about that story. I mean, and I can put a little background in here that you don't have to. Is that, you know, like you said, you guys were sport climbing. You'd hitchhike all over Europe as pretty young kids. A lot of climbing at Freer, right?
Freer, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now it sounds like that was this thing of like, well, let's go see what this other type of climbing is all about.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we were kind of adventure, like we like to adventure part of climbing, and so like climbing multi-pitches or big walls was kind of the next step of adventure, you know. It was like heading towards adventure. And yeah, we were sport climbers, like red pointers, you know. We would just go to this hard route and just like work it until we would red point it. And I was maybe climbing 8A at the time, and Nico was probably on-sighting 8A and climbing 8C plus or something like that, you know. He was a pretty solid climber. So we decided we wanted to do a multi-pitch, so we go to Ratikon, and I remember going through the guidebook and I saw this Headless Children, and probably it was the hardest one in that sector at the time or whatever. And I told Nico, let's go do this one. And Nico was like, what, we're going straight away to the hardest one? Like, and I was like, yeah, that's what we're here for, right? I mean, that's what we're here for. And we're like, all right, let's go. So it was absolute epic. Like we couldn't find the first pitch. Nico was off route. Like he climbed up 60 meters, hadn't put in any, he hadn't found any bolts. We didn't bring any gear because we didn't. It was a German guidebook. We didn't know we needed gear. And I remember at one point he was full rope length out. Like there was no pieces between him and me. And I mean, if he fell, he was going to go flying down the scree and everything like that. And I was like, at this point, I mean, I'm going to clip off the scree because if he falls, you know, it's better that I'm, you know, if I can only help him if I'm not. Right, flying down the scree as well, you know.
Right.
So I just unclipped the gree. I'm like, Nico, I'm unclipping the gree. And then anyway, he down climbed, and finally we found the right line, and we started climbing. But it was a complete epic. We didn't really know what we were doing. I took a huge like factor 2 fall. I think I was above the anchor, and it's pretty run out. Like it's a pretty
no. That's like the reputation of the place.
Yeah.
And this is one of those climbs that people use as like a stepping stone to climbing into like really hard and scary climbing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's well known for that.
Yeah. It's our first multi-pitch. And so I'm above the anchor, and I'm really run out, and I'm about to clip the first bolt, and the hold breaks, and I go flying with slack in hand. I go flying past Nico, like factor 2 onto the anchor or whatever. And my knee was completely cut open. It was bleeding and everything. And anyway, we
said, you're lucky you didn't fuck him up.
Yeah. And anyway, I got back to the anchor, and we were like, what do we do? And then I checked my knee. My knee was fine. It was just blood. And we were like, all right, let's continue. And we went on, and then it was a complete like total fight. I mean, we weren't red pointing pitches. It was just a total battle just to get to the top. And we got to the top, and it was there was this storm coming, like a lightning storm, electrical storm coming towards us. And we're like, we need to rappel now. So we start rappelling, and I remember there was an overhanging pitch, and I had coiled the ropes around my legs, thinking like, because of the wind, it was really windy. I thought that was the best solution. I just coiled them around my legs, and then the wind won't pull away the ropes and stuff. And I'm wrapping down this overhang, and I'm bouncing back and forward, you know, trying to stay in contact with the rock, you know, so I don't find myself. And I start twirling around with the wind, and the ropes get all tangled up, and it's a big mess. And I'm past this roof. Nico can't see me, and I'm like tangled up. All the ropes. It's a huge mess, a huge spaghetti. This electrical storm is coming towards us. And at that point, I'm not even touching the rock anymore. I'm just hanging in space with this huge knots, like this huge like spaghetti. And I managed to undo everything. And I throw the ropes down, and I see that like all the way down, like 60 meters lower, the ropes are touching the rock, and there's an anchor right there. So I'm like, oh, perfect. So I wrapped down to there, and it was actually just the wind that was kind of blowing the ropes towards the rock. So I'm like maybe a meter or two away from the rock, hanging in space, and I can't reach the anchor. And Nico is above me. He can't hear me. He's like shouting down, but the wind is so loud we can't communicate. He doesn't know what's happening. He just feels that there's rope. All this takes about an hour. Like he just feels that he's just hanging there, just shivering, and the electrical storm is coming towards us. Anyway, I had to Prusik my way back up. So I'm Prusik my way back up. This whole story takes an hour. I get to past the roof. I'm like, I pop up, and Nico's like, there you are. I was wondering what's happening. And tell him what happened. Anyway, I wrap back down, clipping into the quick draws, like, you know, just to stay in contact. And we managed to continue rappelling. It starts raining. We get drenched. Anyway, we managed to get down in the dark. You know, it's dark. We have to like stop under a boulder for a while because we're so drenched, and it's just dark and complete epic. You know, we get back to the car in the morning, you know, at sunrise or whatever, completely destroyed. And we take a nap, and we're like, that was fucking awesome. You know, we got to do more of that. Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next year we went to Yosemite. And we were limestone sport climbers. We're in Yosemite. We got our ass kicked. Somehow, our first route is Rostrum, our second route is Astroman, and our third route is free climber. All free, you know. You know, we're limestone free climbers, so limestone sport climbers. So this was like we were getting smacked, but somehow we managed to do it. You know, it was absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the things that helped us a lot is climbing in Freer, learning to climb in Freer, where the climbing is so technical and so demanding that you get used to like getting stomped, you know, getting smacked around by the rock and just feeling like something is impossible. And then you just look and you find the technique, you know, it forces you to be creative and to be open-minded and to try and find the solution, even if it seems impossible. And I think Freer helped us to climb good in Yosemite, even though it's a completely different style. Well,
Yeah.
climb good in Yosemite. I'm not. We were like crimping, like razor blades in the back of the monster off with, and I mean, we weren't climbing good, but we managed to get up. And then from there, and then we did Yosemite, and then we're like the next year we went to Patagonia, and then we went to Pakistan, and then we went to Baffin, and then we went to China, Venezuela, Greenland, all these places. So we just got hooked on these expeditions and big wall climbing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys hang out when you're not on expeditions?
Not so much anymore, but every once in a while, yeah.
Right.
But
well,
now,
he blew it and went off and got married.
Yeah. I mean, like.
No, you're supposed to disagree with that. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we spend a lot of time together. No, I mean, we spend a lot of time together on expeditions, and then when we come back to Europe, we do a lot of tours and presentations and stuff. So then we're all together.
Yeah, like you are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, we might I'll go visit him or whatever in France where he lives, and we go, spend a few days together, sport climbing and stuff. Yeah.
Cool. So last thing is the music.
Yeah.
Right. It's a big part of, like I said, like your vibe and your media and stuff like that. But where does it fit in? We started with you being stuck in El Chalten and meditating in the woods, and it feels like the music for you is part of kind of that vibe, this little whistle that you've learned to play that can be transported anywhere.
Yeah.
Can be played anywhere, literally, except for maybe outer space. And so how does that fit into like just your vibe and
so I like I said, I was brought up on like Irish traditional music and mostly singing. Like my family are way into singing. We always get together and we have these big sing songs. We sing old Irish traditional songs, and like all my cousins and uncles and aunts, and we sing Irish songs. And so when I started traveling, Nico was traveling around with his guitar. And so Nico started playing music, and it would play music. We were hitchhiking around, and Nico played music on his guitar. And then so I would start singing these Irish songs, and he would improvise with his guitar on my Irish songs. And then when we started doing expeditions together, I was like, I need an instrument. It would be awesome to have an instrument too. And the Irish tin whistle was, like you said, it's perfect. You can carry it everywhere. It's small. So I started messing around with that, and that's kind of how I learned. And now it's part of our climbing big wall equipment. And I'm sure Nico told you this already, but we found it like very efficient to like help to break the tension when you're on a big wall, and just help to like be in the moment and enjoy the place. And when you're in a tent and the weather's bad and everything feels heavy, and it just lightens up the atmosphere, and you're not busy waiting. You can be creative and you can express yourself with the music, and we're just up there having fun and playing music. And then when the weather window does come, you're lighter, and you're ready to go climbing, and it just kind of music is a very powerful tool, or it's a very powerful thing. And then it connects with people also, and it just it's, I don't know, it's done. For us now, it's kind of You're
your calling card.
Yeah. We do it on our presentations, and we do it, right?
Yeah. You gonna play?
Sure, I can play a little tune.
Yeah.
A little fast tune. Just play a little bit. Yeah. So here's a little Irish tune called "Banish Misfortune." Thank you.
All right, folks, thanks for listening, and thanks to Sean for sitting down, even though I did have to get a little bit stern with him about getting this thing done finally. I also want to thank the folks up at the Banff Mountain Film Festival for having me up there last fall. I got a couple other ones coming out from then. They've been in the hopper for a few months, but you know how the Enormocast rolls. We talk about big things that aren't necessarily going to age out. So I got a couple more coming from the Banff Mountain Film Festival. They've threatened to have me up there again. I would love to go again, but we'll see how that pans out. And back to that discussion in the beginning, thank you so much for 13 years of support. Dear listeners, when I did make that little existential comment back in episode 300, I heard from a lot of folks talking to me about what the podcast meant to them. That helped over the last 3 months keep me going. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the support, the depth with which people listen. is encouraging. Cheers to the support. Cheers to the fun we've had over the years. And cheers to Sportiva and Arc'teryx, title sponsors, keeping the dream alive. All right, folks, springtime. Love it. Even though I sort of secretly became an ice climber this winter, I'm looking forward to spring and rock climbing season. Hope you are too. And don't forget to check your knots.
I can tell you I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
It ain't flat.